If you've worked with a developer or designer to make your site, some of this stuff might sound familiar. So I help people to get leads and clients online by having a great website and a great system that brings leads and clients their way. I hear a lot from the initial conversations with my newer clients that they had a developer or designer who just vanished, who made their original site and then refused to answer their emails, or they got an overseas freelancer who just never really finished the job. So in this video, I want to just run through a few reasons why that can happen and how to avoid it again in future. So I'm Claire from Claire Creative, by the way. Your site is really important part of your business. It's a business asset. It's something that can bring you leads and clients and allow you to have constant visibility. So it's obviously something that you need to be up and running, functioning properly, representing you well. And when you've had a developer disappear or it takes weeks and weeks for them to reply to your emails, you can feel a little bit stuck and frustrated. So let's rewind to the start of your project, or if you're just getting into a project, let's look at a few of the criteria for the beginning of a project. So sometimes you're making a website and you just want it immediately. You've been impatiently waiting to get online, or there's an event coming up that you just need to have a web presence for. So that is my first red flag. Don't be in too much of a hurry. Find a time where you can really dedicate time in your week to working on this and collaborating with your designer. So be sure that everybody knows where they stand in the project. Set your expectations. So by doing this, it means that you won't be making requests that are unreasonable according to your designer, and it will mean that they feel confident in their relationship with you. So just rewind to the start of the project. Make sure that everybody knows what's going on, that you are paying this amount for this scope of work. So the scope of work is sometimes a document or an agreement or a contract that you work on together and that you sign so that everybody knows what is going to be delivered at the end of this project, and you'll have a project deadline, so when is it going to be delivered by. So setting all of those things up means that there's certainty left and right in your project, and uncertainty causes confusion, people get pissed off, emails don't get answered. So at the beginning of your project, make sure that the expectations are fully set so that there's no confusion later on in the project. The second thing that I wanted to say was to just understand the limitations of the designer or the freelancer who you've chosen to work with for your site. So if you're in the early stages of business, you want to maybe get the best price for your website project or your brand project. So it always seems like a great idea to work with a young freelancer. And I'm not saying don't, but I'm just saying to understand the limitations of their skills, because developers, it's a whole skill set. It's huge. And a developer isn't necessarily a designer as well, and vice versa. A designer doesn't always know how to develop websites and apps and things like that. So just make sure that you understand the limitations of their skills. Sometimes working with a designer, you can kind of almost take for granted that they do maybe logos or layouts. Maybe some of them are skilled in copywriting, but you can't take for granted that it's all of the marketing stuff and all of the tools in one human being. It's unlikely that they'll be able to do all of that stuff, but sometimes they can. Understand their limitations and you'll be able to know the kind of requests that are reasonable or not, or feasible or not. Okay. Also, when it's a young freelancer or a young, very young and experienced business, they won't really have their client communication figured out yet. Not to say they won't, but sometimes they don't have their client communication figured out, which means they don't know how to, stick to a deadline. Or I don't want to diss the young freelancers because there's some incredibly talented people out there, but just to know the limitations and know if they are an inexperienced designer, that sometimes it might take a little bit longer. And the last thing, and maybe the most important thing, is just please respect your designer, please. I hear a lot of these conversations where client and designer, developer, they're just pissed off with each other, and it's just completely from misunderstanding. They're each good people, but because the project has gone wrong and the developer got a bit freaked out by all the requests coming in, sometimes that relationship can break down, and it just really comes back down to respect. Your developer is a human being at the end of the day. Even if you never have a conversation with them, a lot of this stuff happens on email. Just make sure that you're respecting them as a business person, as another human being. So when you're sending emails with urgent, immediately, please respond, that's really kind of undermining the fact that they might already be busy. They might not necessarily be avoiding your emails. Maybe they just have a ton of emails. So please don't send urgent, immediate, please call me kind of emails in the subject line. They're more likely to get ignored. Making additional requests that weren't in the original scope of work, you should always suggest that you pay for that extra work. That scope of work is super important so that you know what you're getting for your money, and they know the work and the hours that they need to dedicate to your project. Additional requests, it's like it's a whole joke in the designer developer world. Oh, more changes. It's just, please just respect them. They have, weekends to spend with their family as well. So be a good client without saying that you're going to be groveling for their respect, but it's really just respect them as a human being, as a fellow business person, a fellow entrepreneur. You're like your partners in this rather than competitors. So that's all I have to say on the matter. It's been something that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. Set the expectations at the beginning of the project, know your designer limitations, know the limitations of your budget, and please just respect each other. So this goes for both parties. So that's me. I'm Claire. ClaireCreative.com is my website. I have a collaborative approach to web development and digital marketing, which means that there's no confusion. We're sitting down together, working on the project, and my client guides the decision, and I help them guide them with their tools, copywriting, graphics, and things like that. So that's my side of it. I got so pissed off with the kind of breakdown in communication when I was working in agencies and working as a freelancer that I said, we're just going to sit down together and do this stuff. So it was based on those bad experiences in my early years of being a designer that I just said, let's just sit down together because I want you to get exactly what you want. And I don't want you emailing me on a Sunday, basically. So that's it from me, ClaireCreative.com if you want to find out a little bit more. Have a great day.